Has a presentation to present, and if Mrs. Brooks would come forward.
I'm a member of the Vietnam Veterans Chapter number 770, and our president is Bubba Cruz. I'm on the board of directors of the Vietnam Veterans Organization. We want to present to you the library with plaque. Certificate of appreciation from the Vietnam Veterans of America, Galveston County, Bay Area, Chapter 770, to the Miller Hitchcock Public Library. For holding Veterans Day observance, November 11, 2001, with displays of the wartime memorabilia from Hitchcock and area veterans. C.W. Cruz, President. Torbio Jackson, Sonora, Vice President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coker. I don't know if our Mayor Powell Campbell is here. He is here. He sneaked in. If you would come forward, Mayor Campbell. And Miss Brooks, please come forward.
It's a great honor for me to read this proclamation to all you veterans present and our veterans abroad and fighting women and men that are overseas at this time. The State of Texas, County of Galveston, the City of Hitchcock proclamation. Whereas the City of Hitchcock Heritage Society and the Geneve Miller Hitchcock Public Library are honoring many women and men from our area who have served our country in times of war and peace, and whereas the City of Hitchcock recognizes the rich history of our area from the World War II era, having had Camp Wallace and the U.S. Naval Blint Base located in Hitchcock, and whereas the City of Hitchcock acknowledges the dedication of the Heritage Society and the library in preserving the memories and historical experiences of our area veterans from all wars for future generations. And now, therefore, I, Cal Campbell, Mayor of the City of Hitchcock, Texas, honor all veterans with great pride by hereby proclaiming today as Veterans Appreciation Day in the City of Hitchcock, and urge all citizens to celebrate their freedom and recognize all servicemen and servicewomen, past and present, which have protected and defined our flag and country. In witness thereof, I am hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Hitchcock, Texas, to be affixed to this 11th day of November 2001. Attested, Rosemary Tyler, City Secretary.
We're going to have some remarks from one of our veterans here, Mr. Leroy Tackard.
Hi. I don't know how I got talked into this, but I'll wait for a second. So, basically was enlisted in the United States Army Engineers in July 1922. Sworn in at Fort Sam Houston. I went from Fort Sam Houston to Fort Belvoir in Virginia, where I spent the next 90 days. And from there, we went to Charleston, South Carolina, where we was waiting to regroup. And they put a group of us on a train, sent us up to Newport News, Virginia. So we chugging along there, and all of a sudden the train had some kind of catastrophe that was never as fully explained, but I spent Christmas Day on a train about half cold, and it was an apple and a sandwich. That was my Christmas dinner. So we finally got the new news dock on December the 28th and pulled up to this humongous ship, this biggest thing I'd ever seen in my life. USS Hermitage. This ship held 10,000 men, and I mean, we were packed in there like sardines. Bunks were 4 high. No, of course, there was plenty of, sanitary facilities. That wasn't a problem. It was just crowded. And naturally, being the last group to get there, we got the best accommodations right down on the bottom of the ship. So we went from there. We pulled out of there as soon as we got loaded and started down the coast, went south, and was off the coast of Florida. And by that time, I had finally finagled away up out of the bottom of the ship, and I was up on one of the gun turrets and watched any aircraft watch. And we looking out there, and we saw 2 destroyers come up, one on each side of this line of ships. They were really coming on strong. And we didn't really, they were just blowing whistles, sirens, stuff like that. About the time they got off the ship, they started throwing the depth charges off. And let me tell you, that water went 100 feet up over the top of the ship. And it blew, I mean, it really shook things up around there. So it scared everybody pretty bad, including me. We went down, and we didn't have any more problems after that. They said, the scope was that they had spotted a possible submarine, and they were doing everything they could to keep them down. So they went on to Panama, and coming into the canal, one of the ships we was with was right next to us and run into a mine and tore the bottom out of it, and they had to put it in dry dock there. So we went on through and stopped in Panama and unloaded a bunch of troops and moved down to where the locks were and loaded another bunch of troops. We went over all the way through the lock and on out into the Pacific Ocean. From there we went to Brisbane, Australia. And that was a good thing. Everybody drove on the wrong side of the road. We like to got run over. Marked us down and decided it was on the wrong side of the road. So we got us on the correct side of the road. So that was, then we hadn't been feeding too well on that Navy ship, that the food wasn't too good. So many people crowded in there. So a fellow named Joe Phillips was a good buddy of mine. We decided we'd volunteer for KP the next morning, and that was, so we got in there, and so they always fed people on KP real good, So that was right up my alley. So we got washed a few pots and had an opportunity to snuck away. And so we come back through later in the chow line with the regular group, and the mess sergeant standing, and he said, "Don't I know you?" I said, "I ain't never seen you before." Then we stayed in Brisbane a while, and then we got put on a little narrow gauge train and went to Townsville. When I say narrow gauge, it's just a little aisle between us. One guy sits here, and one guy sits here. The windows were all blocked off. You couldn't open the windows. And doors that you could open to let the cinders in from the little train, dinky train pulling. We got up to Townsville, unloaded there, and then first on the ship, we went across this straits there and into Port Moresby. And from Port Moresby, we were given to understand that we were going to walk over to Boona. And that was a fun job, we thought. So then they decided that we were going to fly. So they put a bunch of us on there. And we got over there, and he took off, and they climbed the circle and climbed the circle. Finally got high enough to get through the pass. Come through the pass, and wait about halfway through it, the pilot called back. That was before they used to lock cockpit doors, and called back and says that there's a Jap Zero overhead, but I don't think he's looking for us. So I was very happy about that. The pilot took off on the next side. He just dove right straight down. And you look out the window and you can see the tops of the trees whipping by the aircraft, old DC-3. And got down, and the sergeant says, and got down on the ground, he says, the pilot's going to kick this around. He says, kick this door open, and when he turns this thing around, you jump off and run for the trees, because if you on, when he gets straightened out to line up, he's not going to wait for you. He's going to take off. It's going to be your problem when you get back to the other side. So everybody jumped off, and we run for the trees, and there were several people there. He called several, them called my name, so I went with him, and we went to this camp, walked to this camp, quite a ways, up 2, 3, 4, and the ground trip, you walked everywhere. And so he says, everybody, we had these pup tents, 2 men to attention, everybody dig a foxhole. We're going to dig a foxhole for you. I wasn't too gung-ho about that. That night, the Japanese come over and they bombed the camp. So the next time they moved camp, they set up the camp. Well, Dave was out there with the shovel. He was the first one to take the foxhole. I guarantee you, he didn't need no second order on that one. And we stayed in Boone about 18 months. And that's where I think I got hurt. It rained there in the Boone area, in the Guinea area. That was it rained 600 inches a year in that area. I mean, rainy season rained all day, and dry season just rained half a day. And everything would mildew, and I'm telling you, it was bad. And then we would build the drainage system, and that's why I think the grader backed in there and knocked a bunch of us down. We was trying to get the drain pipe lined up correctly so it could go. So then we pulled out of there, went back to Australia, to Sydney. We regrouped and got all this fine equipment out there, new stuff. The only thing was it was all painted bright yellow. So we had strict orders to camouflage it, put camouflage paint on it. Did that. And loaded it up, and we went to a place called Zanzibar, which is a little area on the end of western end of the Guinea Island, which we spent there. We built some airstrips there for the 5th Air Force, and they flew off of those and bombed all refineries and targets in Borneo area in that East Indies. Then we moved out of there and went to Morotai, and there's 2 big islands. One's Morotai, and the bigger island is Halmahera. Well, the Japanese had Halmahera. They had already. But we went on to Morotai, and we didn't have any opposition. I think we were there a couple of days before they discovered that we was there. But we was pretty well trenched in by them. We stayed there several months building an airstrip, and when the Air Force get control of the air. And then we loaded up and went to Nguyen Gulf. And while I was there, we was hauling some coral, this big old chunk out there, and loaded on the truck, hauled up, and spread that, and packed it down, make a good driveway, landing strip. And the little Japanese bombers come over and they dropped something. I thought they hit close to the truck, and I was kind of suspicious, so I eased up and looked in the back of my truck, and there was one of these little old dudes about this big around, about that long, with a pillow in there, sitting in that pile of coral. And I said, so I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? And so about that time, when the officers come up there, and I told him about it, he looked at it, so he called somebody, and they come up there and figured out that what had happened is that it dropped so low that it hadn't had time to wind the bomb up to hit the firing pin on it. So I lucked out on that. Then got to Lingayen, and we had got sunk there. And that was a bad situation there. I come to and swimming out in the Gulf, and the Navy people come up and said, "You want which way you going?" I said, "I'm going to San Francisco." And he said, "That's a long way to swim." He says, "Come on, get on the boat with us, and we'll take you over to the shore." So that's where I was. Got kicked out November 22nd. They got tired of me, I guess.
I was handed this important communique a while ago. Is Elsie Hengst here? She's here. Please hold up your hand. I'm not going to ask anybody that's 100 years old. When you get that old, you don't need to stand up. Ron Kenny is going to give us, or serenade us again. And Mrs. Hengst is also, as I've been informed, a Gold Star mother. All the old people should know this one. I'll be with you in apple blossom time. I'll be with you to change your name to mine. One day in May, I'll come and say, happy the bride that the sun shines on today. What a wonderful wedding there will be. What a wonderful day for you and me. Church bells will chime, you will be mine in apple blossom time. Joined in, but not many joined in. There were many of you from here in Hitchcock that served in our nation's armed forces, and I'm going to, at this time, call on Bill Reitmeyer to come and read the Roll of Honor. Those who served from Hitchcock.
Where's your white hat?
On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, armistice was signed in France, ending World War I. A few years ago, Armistice Day and Veterans Day became one and the same, a special day to recognize and pay tribute to all men and women who served and who are now serving for the sacrifices they have made to preserve freedom in our world. All servicemen were assigned, I should say personnel, because there was ladies too. All personnel was assigned duties. Some direct combat, some supply support, some trained to train men to go to school and for their professions that they would follow. All the veterans we honor here today. On Mistress Day, November the 11th of 1934, the following veterans were honored here in Hitchcock. Two men that was deceased who was killed in action was Alfred DeRue and Arthur Sarah, S-A-R-I-C-O. The other veterans that were honored was John Kalanya, Angelo Catesi, Charlie Clausen, Jesse Emery, Ralph Emery, Frank Esperson, John Gino, Walter Gennard, George Hinkle Jr., Bert Hepler, Chris Jensen, Bill McCarty, Charlie McCarty, Les Miller, Morgan Miller, Dominic Masso, Louis Perthew, Link Prino, Tony Prino, Leroy Tackard, which I believe was your dad, right? And Herb Heffler. In 1940, the population of Hitchcock was about 600 people. Of these 600, we have come up with 53 young men who served in the service between 1940 through 45. We have tried to identify these men who were residents at the time, and we honor them today, November the 11th, 2001. If I call a name that someone is present, please stand. And if a person is not here and some are deceased, if someone will stand for them, some member of their family. Nat Alford, Tullis Austin, J.O. Anderson, Owen Barker, Charlie Kalanya, Frank Cambiano, Clifford Alford. I should maybe go back and let you know that, read something else here. Let me start over if I may. Nat Alford, Tullis Austin, John Anderson, deceased. Owen Barker, deceased. Charles Kalanya, deceased. Frank Cambiano, Charlie Clifford, deceased. Jimmy Curran, Rudolph Daniels, Link Delisandra, Lonnie Delisandra, Pete Delisandra, deceased. Sylvan Kmire, Freddie Caper, deceased. Wilbur Caper, deceased. Emil Kellerman, Johnny Kellerman, Victor Kellerman, Aubrey LaFrance, Arthur LaFrance, both deceased. Joe Matranga, deceased. Tony Matranga, deceased. Freddie Myers, Harold Myers, Arthur Powers, deceased. Eddie Pretz, deceased. Tom Pretz, deceased. George Prino, deceased. William G. Question, deceased. Myself, Bill Reitmeyer. Norton Robinson, Joe Shanza, deceased. Luke Shanzi. Carl Scheffler, David Scheffler, Dick Scheffler, deceased. Ann Scheffler, deceased. Christopher Smith, Louis Speaker, deceased. Carol Stanley, L.J. Tackard, Joe Tax, deceased. Bernie Tax, deceased. Charlie Tarasso, deceased. Mike Tarasso, Nick Tarasso, deceased. Pete Tarasso, deceased. A.G. Terrebonne, Dink Wilson, Gaddis Widgeon, James Wright, deceased. And we have two men that were killed in action from Hitchcock, of these 53 that I know of. One of them was Edgar Hinks,